Hey there, viewer. I'm so excited you're here for this crazy story. Before we dive in, I've got a super quick question for you. Have you ever had a nosy neighbor who just wouldn't leave you alone? Maybe they peeked over your fence or complained about your dog barking. Drop your story in the comments below. I can't wait to read it. Oh, and if you love wild tales like this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more. One last thing, tell me where you're watching from today. Are you chilling at home, at school, or somewhere else? Let's make this fun. Okay, let's jump into the story. Close your eyes for a second and picture this, a quiet little neighborhood called Sunny Hills. It's the kind of place where the houses are neat, the grass is green, and the sun always seems to shine. Kids ride bikes down the street, dogs wag their tails, and neighbors chat over fences. Sounds nice, right? But here's the thing, Sunny Hills isn't as perfect as it looks. See, in this neighborhood, everybody knows everybody's business, or at least they think they do. The people gossip about who got a new car, who planted flowers, or who left their trash can out too long. It's like everyone's playing a big game of who's doing what. Now let me introduce you to Jake Turner. Jake was the new guy in Sunny Hills. He just moved into a small, cozy house at the end of Maple Street. It had a white fence, a red door, and a big front yard that needed some love. Jake was tall, with messy brown hair and a friendly smile that made you feel like you known him forever. He wore jeans and a t-shirt, and he always had a toolbox in his hand. Now, Jake had a dream. He wanted to live peacefully, fix up his house, and maybe make his yard look awesome. Simple, right? He wasn't asking for much, just a quiet life and a place to call home. When Jake moved in, things were calm at first. His first week was like a sunny day with no clouds. He unpacked his boxes, set up his furniture, and even hung a little swing on his porch. Every morning, he'd step outside, stretch his arms, and wave at anyone passing by. "Hey, good morning," he'd say, his voice cheerful. The neighbors waved back, curious about the new guy. Some smiled, some nodded, and a few just stared, wondering who this Jake Turner was. Nobody knew much about him. He seemed nice, but quiet, just a regular guy, they thought. But here's the big secret. Jake wasn't just a regular guy. Nope, he was hiding something huge. And that secret was about to shake up Sunny Hills like a thunderstorm nobody saw coming. One of Jake's favorite things was fixing up his yard. He loved being outside, digging in the dirt, planting flowers, and making things look neat. On his third day in Sunny Hills, he decided to add something special to his front yard, a cool outdoor lamp. It wasn't a big, fancy lamp, just a simple one that stood on a pole. At night, it glowed a soft orange, like a tiny firefly dancing in the dark. Jake thought it was perfect. It made his house feel warm and welcoming, like a hug from the outside. Every evening, he'd sit on his porch, sip some lemonade, and smile at that little glowing light. To him, it was a sign that he was starting fresh, building a new life. But not everyone in Sunny Hills loved Jake's lamp. In fact, one person hated it, and her name was Karen Mitchell. Oh boy, let me tell you about Karen. In Sunny Hills, people called her HOA Karen when she wasn't around. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, a group that makes rules for the neighborhood, like how tall your grass can be or what color your mailbox should be. Karen was the boss of the HOA, and she took her job way too seriously. She was a short woman with sharp eyes, a pointy nose, and lips that always looked like she was sucking on a sour candy. She carried a clipboard everywhere, scribbling notes about anything she didn't like. A bike left in a driveway, she'd write it down. A window with a smudge, she'd notice. A dog barking too loud, she'd complain. Karen was like a hawk, always watching, always ready to swoop in with a rule or a fine. Karen's favorite thing was control. She wanted Sunny Hills to be perfect, but her idea of perfect meant everyone had to do exactly what she said. If you didn't follow her rules, she'd knock on your door with a fake smile and a warning. "Fix this or you'll be sorry," she'd say, her voice sweet but cold. Most neighbors were scared of her. They'd nod, apologize, and do whatever she wanted just to keep the peace. Karen loved that power. It made her feel like the queen of Sunny Hills. But Jake, he was about to mess with her kingdom in a way she never expected. The trouble started on Jake's 5th day in the neighborhood. He was outside, hammering a small sign into his yard that said, "Welcome to Jake's Place." The sign was cute, with bright blue letters and a little sunflower painted on it. Jake was proud of it. He stepped back, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and grinned. That's when he heard footsteps. Clip-clop, clip-clop. He turned around, and there was Karen, marching toward him like a soldier on a mission. Her clipboard was tucked under her arm, and her face was all business. Jake waved. "Hey, good to see you," he said, trying to be friendly. Karen didn't wave back. She stopped right in front of his lamp and pointed at it like it was a monster. "This thing," she said, her voice sharp, "it's against the rules." Jake blinked, confused. "The lamp?" he asked. "What's wrong with it?" Karen's eyes narrowed. "It's too bright, it's ugly. It doesn't belong in Sunny Hills. Take it down by tomorrow or I'll make sure you regret it." Her words were like a slap, quick and mean. Jake tilted his head, still smiling. "I checked the HOA rules," he said calmly. "The lamp's fine, it's not too bright, and it's on my property." Karen's face turned pink, then red, like a balloon about to pop. Nobody talked back to her. Nobody. "We'll see about that," she snapped, spinning around and storming off. Her shoes clicked on the sidewalk and her clipboard bounced under her arm. Jake watched her go, his smile never fading. He wasn't scared, not one bit. Why? Because Jake knew something Karen didn't. That lamp wasn't just a lamp, and he wasn't just a guy with a toolbox. He had a plan, a big one. And Karen's little tantrum was just the start of something way bigger. See, Sunny Hills wasn't as sleepy as it seemed. Behind the perfect lawns and friendly waves, there were secrets. People whispered about the HOA. They said money was missing. They said Karen was charging extra fees and keeping them for herself. They said she scared people into following her rules even when the rules didn't make sense. Nobody could prove it, though. Nobody dared to stand up to her. But Jake, he wasn't like the others. He moved to Sunny Hills for a reason. And that reason had nothing to do with planting flowers or hanging lamps. Well, okay, maybe the lamp was part of it, but not the way Karen thought. As the sun set that evening, Jake sat on his porch, his dog Rusty curled up beside him. The lamp glowed softly, casting a warm light across the yard. Jake sipped his lemonade and looked across the street. Karen's house was dark, but he could see her shadow moving behind the curtains. She was watching him, he knew it. Most people would feel nervous, maybe even take the lamp down to avoid trouble. But Jake, he just leaned back in his chair and chuckled. "Keep watching, Karen," he whispered to himself. "You're gonna love what happens next." That's where our story starts, viewer. A new guy, a grumpy neighbor, and a little lamp that's about to light up a whole lot of trouble. What's Jake hiding? Why isn't he scared of Karen? And what's gonna happen when she pushes him too far? Stick around because this neighborhood is about to get wild. Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if Karen told you to take down your favorite lamp? Let's keep the fun going. Okay, let's dive back into Sunny Hills, where things are about to get spicy. You remember Jake, right? The new guy with the cool lamp that glows like a firefly. And Karen, the grumpy HOA boss who hates it. Well, buckle up, because Karen's not done causing trouble and Jake not backing down. This part's all about how their fight starts to heat up and why Jake's still smiling, even when Karen's ready to explode. It all kicked off one sunny morning. Jake was outside humming a tune, watering his flowers with a green hose. His yard looked nice, freshly mowed grass, a few daisies popping up, and that little orange lamp standing tall. He was happy, minding his own business. But then clip-clop, here came Karen Mitchell, marching up his driveway like she owned the place. Her lips were squeezed tight, like she'd just bitten into a super sour lemon. She stopped right in front of Jake's lamp, her eyes squinting at it like it was the ugliest thing she'd ever seen. That lamp, Karen snapped, pointing at it like it was a pile of garbage. It's against HOA rules, it's too bright, it's tacky. Take it down by tomorrow or I'm reporting you. Her voice was sharp like a teacher scolding a kid for running in the hall. She crossed her arms, her clipboard tucked under one elbow, waiting for Jake to beg for forgiveness. But Jake, he didn't flinch, he just looked at her, his eyes twinkling, and gave a big, easy smile. I checked the rules, ma'am, he said, calm as a sunny day. The lamp's fine, it's not breaking any rules. Then he turned back to his flowers, spraying water on a rose bush like Karen wasn't even there. Karen's face went pink, then red, like a tomato about to burst. Nobody said no to her. Nobody. In Sunny Hills, she was the queen of the HOA, the homeowners association that made all the neighborhood rules. If your grass grew too tall, Karen would send a letter. If your car was parked a tiny bit wrong, she'd slap a fine on your door. If a kid left a skateboard in the yard, she'd write a mean note in big, angry letters. To Karen, rules were everything, and Jake's lamp. Oh, she took it personally, like he'd put up a giant sign saying, I don't care about you, Karen. We'll see about that, she hissed, her voice low and grumpy. She spun around, her shoes clicking hard on the pavement, and stomped back to her house across the street. Her ponytail bounced like it was mad, too. Jake watched her go, still smiling. He shrugged, gave his flowers one last spray, and went inside. He wasn't worried, not even a little, but Karen, she was already cooking up a plan to make Jake sorry. See, Karen wasn't used to losing. In her mind, Sunny Hills was her kingdom. She'd been running the HOA for years, and she loved being in charge. She walked around with her clipboard like it was a magic wand, ready to point out anything she didn't like. One time, she fined Mr. Lopez because his mailbox was too shiny. Another time, she yelled at little Sophie for drawing chalk flowers on her driveway. It's messy, Karen had said, even though everyone else thought the flowers were cute. The neighbors didn't argue with her. They were too scared. Karen's glares could make a dog hide under a couch, and her letters could make grown-ups groan. So when Jake said his lamp was fine, it was like he'd thrown a big rock into her perfect little pond, and Karen didn't like ripples. From that day on, Karen made Jake her #1 target. She started watching him like a hawk. Every morning, she'd peek through her curtains, her eyes narrow and her pen scribbling on that clipboard. She wrote down everything. If Jake's trash can was out 5 minutes early, she noted it. If his mailbox had a tiny smudge, she added it to her list. One day, she even wrote, "Ties trash bags too loose," like that was a crime. She'd stand on her porch, arms crossed, staring at Jake's house like she could make the lamp disappear with her frown. And it wasn't just watching. Karen talked about Jake to everyone. She'd corner neighbors at the mailbox or stop them while they walked their dogs. "Have you seen that new guy?" she'd say, her voice loud and annoyed. "Thinks he's above the rules. That lamp's an eyesore. He's trouble, mark my words." Some neighbors nodded just to get away. Others rolled their eyes when she wasn't looking. But nobody said anything to Jake. They didn't want Karen mad at them next. Here's the funny thing, though. Jake knew she was watching. He'd be mowing his lawn and catch her staring from her window. He'd wave all friendly, and she'd yank the curtains shut like she'd been caught stealing cookies. He heard her talking, too. One day he was walking his dog, Rusty, when he overheard her complaining to Mrs. Carter. "That Jake Turner's got no respect," Karen said. "He's gonna learn who runs this place." Mrs. Carter just mumbled something and hurried off, but Jake heard every word. And guess what? Every time Karen glared or grumbled, Jake's smile got a little bigger. Why? That's the big question. Why wasn't he scared? Why didn't he care? See, Karen thought she had Jake all figured out. To her, he was just a new guy who didn't know his place. She thought she could boss him around like she did with everyone else. But Karen was wrong. Jake wasn't worried because he wasn't who she thought he was. He wasn't just a guy with a lamp and a toolbox. There was something else going on, something Karen couldn't even guess. Every time she wrote a note or whispered about him, she was walking right into a trap she didn't see coming. Jake kept living his life calm as ever. He'd water his flowers, pet his dog, and sit on his porch at night watching that lamp glow. Sometimes he'd look across the street at Karen's house and chuckle to himself. It was like he knew a secret joke and Karen was the punchline. Neighbors started to notice too. "That Jake's pretty chill," Mr. Lopez said one day. "Karen's losing it over a lamp, but he's just smiling." Little Sophie, the chalk-drawing girl, liked Jake too. She'd wave when she rode her bike past his house, and he'd wave back, calling, "Nice flowers, Sophie." It was like Karen's anger bounced right off him. But Karen wasn't giving up. She was planning her next move, something bigger than complaints or notes. She wanted Jake to feel her power, to know she was the boss. She didn't know it yet, but every step she took was making things worse for her. Jake's lamp was still glowing, his smile was still wide, and Sunny Hills was about to see a fight nobody expected. "All right, let's head back to Sunny Hills, where things are getting wilder by the day." You know Jake, the guy with the glowing lamp, and Karen, the HOA boss who can't stand it. Their fight is growing bigger, and Karen's not holding back. But Jake, he's still cool as a cucumber, and we're about to find out why. Get ready for some sneaky clues and a moment that'll make you go, "Whoa, what's going on?" Days went by after Karen's big scene at Jake's house. She wasn't done complaining, not even close. Her grumbling got louder, like a storm cloud getting ready to burst. Every morning, she'd march around the neighborhood, her clipboard in hand, pointing at Jake's lamp like it was the worst thing ever. She started sending him letters from the HOA, those fancy papers with big words meant to scare people. "Your lamp is a safety hazard," one letter said. "It's too bright and dangerous. Take it down now." Another letter called it a public disturbance. Jake read them, chuckled, and tossed them in a drawer. He didn't argue. He didn't write back. He just kept watering his flowers and waving at neighbors like nothing was wrong. Karen didn't like that, not one bit. She wanted Jake to fight back or beg her to stop, but his calm smile made her madder than ever. So she decided to turn up the heat. One afternoon, she called a big HOA meeting at the community center. She sent flyers to every house saying, "Emergency meeting, save Sunny Hills." Neighbors showed up, curious but mostly tired. They sat in folding chairs, sipping coffee, while Karen stood at the front, waving her arms like a teacher trying to get everyone's attention. "That lamp," Karen shouted, her face red. "It's an eyesore, it's ruining our neighborhood. Jake Turner thinks he can ignore our rules, but we won't let him." She pointed at a picture of the lamp she'd taped to the wall like it was evidence in a crime show. The neighbors looked at each other, confused. Some whispered, "It's just a light." Others yawned. Mr. Lopez, who lived next to Jake, leaned back and muttered, "Looks fine to me." But Karen kept going, saying the lamp was blinding and tacky. Most folks just nodded to make her stop talking. Nobody wanted to argue with her. She was too loud and too scary. Guess who wasn't at the meeting? Jake. He didn't show up, didn't send a note, didn't care. Where was he? Well, that's where things get interesting. While Karen was yelling about his lamp, Jake was at home, busy with something totally different. He wasn't out mowing his lawn or fixing his porch. Nope. He was in his garage, and if you peeked inside, you'd see something strange. Picture this: Jake's garage was like a secret hideout. The door was closed, and a single light bulb hung from the ceiling, casting shadows on the walls. Jake sat at a small table, his laptop open, its screen glowing bright. He was typing fast, his fingers flying over the keys. Next to him was a phone, and he'd pick it up now and then, talking quietly to someone. "Yeah, I found more," he'd say, or "Check this out." On the table there were maps of Sunny Hills, with red marks circling certain houses. There were photos too, pictures of mailboxes, front yards, and even Karen's house. Weirdest of all, a big folder labeled Sunny Hills in bold black letters. Inside it, papers were stuffed so full the folder barely closed. What was all this? What was Jake doing? If you stood outside and listened, you'd hear him muttering to himself. Almost got it, he'd say, or she's making this too easy. He'd flip through the folder, pull out a note, and scribble something down. Every now and then he'd look at a photo of Karen's clipboard and grin. It was like he was putting together a puzzle, and every piece made him happier. But what kind of puzzle? Why was he so sneaky? Nobody in Sunny Hills had a clue, not even Karen. Meanwhile, Karen kept pushing. She wasn't just writing letters or holding meetings anymore. She started following Jake around, not like a spy in a movie, but close. If Jake walked his dog Rusty, she'd be there, peeking from her porch. If he carried groceries inside, she'd watch from her window, writing notes. One day, she even measured his lamp with a tape measure, muttering, "Too tall, too wide." Jake saw her, waved, and said, "Nice day, huh?" Karen just glared and stomped off. To her, Jake was a problem she had to fix, and she was running out of patience. Then came the night Karen went way too far. It was a cool evening with stars twinkling above Sunny Hills. Jake was out walking Rusty, his little brown dog with a wagging tail. They strolled down Maple Street, enjoying the quiet. Jake whistled a tune and Rusty sniffed every bush. Everything was peaceful until they got close to Jake's house. There, under the glow of his lamp, stood Karen. She was holding her phone, her face twisted like she'd smelled something bad. When she saw Jake, she pointed at the lamp and yelled, "I'm calling 911. This lamp is a public nuisance." Jake stopped, one eyebrow raised. "Karen," he said, super calm, "it's just a light. Maybe go home and relax." His voice was soft, like he was talking to a kid throwing a tantrum. Rusty tilted his head, looking at Karen like, "What's her deal?" But Karen wasn't listening. She was done talking. She tapped her phone, dialed 911, and started talking loud enough for the whole street to hear. "Hello, police. There's a lamp on Maple Street. It's blinding drivers. It's causing chaos. You need to come now." She glared at Jake, waiting for him to panic. But Jake, he didn't panic. He didn't yell or argue. He just shook his head, gave a little laugh, and kept walking. Rusty trotted beside him, tail still wagging like nothing was wrong. They headed back to the house, and Jake closed the door behind them. If you looked close, though, you'd see his smile wasn't just calm, it was knowing. Inside, Jake was ready for something. He knew something Karen didn't, and it was big. That call to 911, it wasn't going to go the way she thought, not at all. What was Jake hiding? Why was he so chill when Karen was losing it? Those maps, those photos, that folder, what did they mean? Sunny Hills was about to find out, and Karen was walking right into a surprise she never saw coming. Okay, everybody, hold on tight, because Sunny Hills is about to get wild. You know how Karen's been picking on Jake and his little lamp, and how Jake been super calm like he's got a secret. Well, this is the moment everything explodes into the open. It's like a surprise party nobody expected, especially Karen. Get ready for the biggest whoa moment yet. It all started the morning after Karen called 911 about Jake's lamp. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and Sunny Hills looked like its usual happy self. Jake was out in his yard, tossing a ball for his dog Rusty, who was bouncing around like a furry ping-pong ball. Across the street, Karen was on her porch, ready to watch her big win. She was sure the police were coming for Jake. She stood there, arms crossed, a smug smile on her face like a kid who just tattled and knows they're right. Her clipboard was next to her, full of notes about Jake, crimes. She couldn't wait to see him in trouble. Then, vroom vroom, 2 police cars rolled into the neighborhood. Their lights weren't flashing, but they looked serious, with shiny badges on the doors. Karen's smile got even bigger. "Finally," she whispered to herself. She leaned forward, waiting for the cars to stop at Jake's house. She imagined the cops telling him to take down his lamp, or maybe even hauling him away for being a nuisance. Oh, she was thrilled. But then what? The police cars didn't go to Jake's house. They slowed down and parked right in front of Karen's house. Her smile froze, her eyes got wide like she'd seen a ghost. No, 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 she said, waving her arms like she could shoo the cars away. She stepped off her porch, her slippers flapping on the ground, and called out, "Officers, you're at the wrong address. It's his lamp that's the problem." She pointed at Jake's house, her finger shaking a little. Jake, leaning against his fence, just watched. Rusty sat next to him, wagging his tail. Jake's face had that same little smile, like he knew something nobody else did. The neighbors started noticing too. Curtains twitched and faces peeked out of windows. Mr. Lopez stuck his head out his door. Little Sophie, the girl who drew chalk flowers, stopped riding her bike to stare. Something big was happening, and everyone could feel it. The police officers didn't even look at Jake's lamp. One of them, a tall guy with a serious face and a shiny badge, climbed out of the car and walked straight to Karen. His boots made a thump-thump sound on her driveway. He had a piece of paper in his hand, folded neatly. Karen backed up a step, her hands twisting together. "Ma'am," the officer said, his voice calm but firm, "are you Karen Mitchell?" Karen blinked fast, like she wasn't sure what to say. "Why, yes," she stammered. "That's me, but why are you here? It's him you want." She pointed at Jake again, her voice getting squeaky. The officer didn't turn around. He didn't even glance at Jake. Instead, he held up the paper and said, "We've got a warrant. Mind if we take a look inside your house?" Karen's jaw dropped so low it almost hit the ground. A warrant, for her, that's like a special permission slip from a judge saying the police can check your stuff. Karen's face went pale, like she'd forgotten how to breathe. "A W warrant," she whispered. "There's got to be a mistake. I'm the HOA president. I keep this neighborhood perfect." She looked around, hoping someone would agree, but the neighbors just stared. Nobody said a word. The officer didn't argue. He just nodded to the other cop, a woman with short hair who walked toward Karen's front door. "Ma'am, let's make this easy," the woman said. "Open the door, please." Karen's hands shook as she fumbled with her keys. She kept muttering, "This is wrong, this is all wrong." But she opened the door and the officers stepped inside. The neighbors' whispers got louder. "What's going on?" Mrs. Carter asked Mr. Lopez. "Why are they at Karen's house?" Nobody knew except Jake. Jake stayed by his fence, petting Rusty's head. His lamp glowed softly in the morning light, looking as harmless as ever. He didn't say anything, but his eyes followed the officers. That smile on his face, it was bigger now, like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. And here, where the truth comes out, the truth Karen never saw coming. Jake wasn't just a guy who moved to Sunny Hills to fix up a house. Nope, he was an undercover investigator. That's like a secret detective, hired by the city to snoop around and find out what's fishy. For months, people had been calling the city, complaining about the HOA. They said money was disappearing, like cash from neighborhood projects that never happened. They said there were fake fines where people had to pay Karen for no reason. Some even said Karen scared them, saying mean things to make them follow her rules. And guess who was at the center of all those complaints? You got it, Karen Mitchell. While Karen was busy hatting Jake's lamp, Jake was busy watching her. All those nights in his garage, he wasn't just playing games on his laptop. He was digging for proof. He found bank records showing money going into Karen's account, money that should have fixed the park or painted the community center. He found emails where Karen told neighbors they'd regret not listening to her. He even had secret notes Karen wrote, bragging about how she tricked people into paying her special fees. All that stuff was in the big folder in his garage, the one labeled Sunny Hills. It was like a treasure chest full of clues, and Jake had found every single one. When Karen called 911 about the lamp, she thought she was being clever. But Jake, he was one step ahead. After she made her call, he picked up his phone and dialed his boss at the city. "It's time," he said. He told them everything he'd found, every note, every email, every dollar Karen hid. The city sent the police, but not for Jake's lamp. They were coming for Karen. That warrant wasn't about a light. It was about her secrets, and now they were all spilling out. Karen stood in her doorway, looking smaller than ever. Her clipboard was still on the porch, but it didn't matter anymore. The officers were inside, opening drawers, checking her computer, finding everything Jake had told them about. Neighbors crowded closer, whispering like a swarm of bees. "Did she really steal?" Sophie's mom asked. "I always thought she was bossy, but this," Mr. Lopez shook his head. No wonder Jake wasn't scared. Jake didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His lamp stood tall, glowing like a little hero. Karen's plan to get him in trouble had backfired big time. She thought she was the queen of Sunny Hills, but Jake had been playing a different game, one she didn't even know about. And now the whole neighborhood was about to see who she really was. Wow, what a crazy moment in Sunny Hills. Karen just got the biggest surprise ever, and Jake's secret is out. He's the hero who turned everything around. Now let's see what happens next as the neighborhood figures out how to move on and Jake's lamp keeps shining bright. The police were inside Karen's house, and boy did they find a lot. Jake had told them exactly where to look, and it was like opening a box of secrets. They found stacks of money hidden in a drawer, cash that was supposed to fix the park or buy new swings for the kids. Instead, Karen had kept it for herself. They also found papers, fake ones she made up to trick people. Those papers said neighbors owed her money for silly things, like having too many flowers or a mailbox that was too blue. Worst of all, they found her laptop. It was full of mean emails she sent, telling people they'd be sorry if they didn't do what she said. Can you believe it? Karen, the HOA boss, was acting like a bully. Karen stood in her living room, watching the officers pull out her secrets. Her face was pale and her hands shook like leaves in the wind. "This is a mistake," she cried, her voice all wobbly. "I didn't do anything wrong, I'm just keeping the neighborhood nice." But her words got mixed up, tripping over each other like she couldn't find the right ones. The officers didn't listen. They'd seen the proof, piles of it. One of them, the tall guy with the serious face, held up a pair of shiny handcuffs. Click, click, they snapped shut on Karen's wrists. She gasped, but there was no way out. The officers led her to the police car, one on each side, like she was in a parade nobody wanted to watch. The neighbors were stunned. They spilled out of their houses, gathering in the street like a big school recess. They whispered to each other, their eyes wide. "Karen stealing," said Mrs. Carter, holding her coffee mug. "I thought she was just bossy." Mr. Lopez shook his head. "Threatening people, that's awful." Little Sophie, the girl who loved chalk drawings, tugged her mom's sleeve. "Mom, did Karen really take our park money?" Her mom nodded, too shocked to say much. Nobody could believe it. Karen had seemed so powerful, always waving her clipboard like a queen. Now she was just a lady in handcuffs, climbing into a police car. Someone turned to Jake, who was still by his fence, petting Rusty. "Jake, did you know about this?" asked Mrs. Carter, her voice curious. Everyone looked at him, waiting. Jake just grinned, his eyes twinkling. "Let's just say I like to keep things bright," he said, nodding at his lamp. That little orange light glowed softly in his yard, looking prouder than ever. The neighbors burst out laughing like they'd all heard the best joke. Even Sophie giggled, pointing at the lamp. "It's a hero lamp," she said, and everyone laughed again. With Karen gone, Sunny Hills started to change. The HOA needed a big cleanup, like a messy room after a party. The neighbors had a meeting, not a grumpy one like Karen, but a nice one where everyone shared ideas. They picked new leaders, people who cared about making the neighborhood fun, not bossing everyone around. Mr. Lopez volunteered to help, and so did Sophie's mom. They promised to use the HOA money for good stuff, like fixing the playground and planting more flowers. No more fake fines or mean emails, just smiles and teamwork. Jake's lamp, it stayed right where it was, glowing every night like a happy little star. Nobody complained about it anymore. In fact, some neighbors started calling it Jake's light, like it was famous. Every evening when the sun went down, that orange glow lit up Maple Street, reminding everyone that things were better now. The neighbors changed too. They used to wave at Jake because they were curious or scared of Karen's rules. Now they waved because they liked him. "Hey, Jake," Mr. Lopez would call, giving a thumbs up. Sophie would ride her bike past his house and yell, "Hi, hero guy." Jake would wave back, always smiling, always friendly. He wasn't just the new guy anymore. He was the guy who fixed Sunny Hills, the guy who stood up to a bully and made the neighborhood feel like home again. Wow, what a wild ride we've had in Sunny Hills. Jake's lamp turned out to be way more than just a light, and Karen learned she wasn't the boss of everything. Now, let's take a moment to think about what this crazy story means. Grab a cozy spot, maybe imagine you're sitting on Jake's porch with that glowing lamp nearby, and let's talk about the big lessons we can carry with us. First, let's think about Jake. When he moved to Sunny Hills, everyone thought he was just a regular guy with a toolbox and a dog named Rusty. Karen saw his lamp and decided he was trouble, someone who didn't follow her rules. She pointed fingers, wrote mean letters, and even called the police, thinking she could scare him away. But Jake wasn't breaking rules, he was saving the day. He was like a superhero, hiding in plain sight, working quietly to fix the neighborhood. That shows us something super important. Sometimes the person who seems ordinary is doing the biggest, bravest things. You can't always tell who's a hero just by looking at them. Then there's Karen. Oh boy, she was loud. She walked around with her clipboard telling everyone what to do, acting like she was the queen. She complained about Jake's lamp, about mailboxes, about anything she didn't like, but all that noise was hiding something snaky. Karen was taking money, writing fake fines, and being mean to people. She thought nobody would notice, but Jake did. That's a big lesson too. The loudest complainer might be hiding the biggest secrets. When someone's always pointing at others, maybe they're trying to keep you from looking at them. This makes me think about how we treat people. Imagine you're at school and there's a kid who's new or different. Maybe they wear funny shoes or bring a weird lunch. If someone starts picking on them, saying they don't belong, what do you do? Karen would say, get rid of them. But Jake's story says, wait a sec, take a closer look. That kid might be awesome, like Jake with his lamp. They might have something special to share, like a cool idea or a kind heart. The next time you see someone getting teased, don't just follow the crowd. Ask yourself, who's really right here? Who's got the real truth? You might find a friend or a hero instead of a problem. Another thing I love about this story is how Jake stayed calm. Karen was yelling, sending letters, calling 911, but Jake just smiled. He didn't fight her with shouts or mean words. He used his brain, found the truth, and let it shine like his lamp. That's a super cool way to be strong. You don't always need to be loud to win. Sometimes being quiet and smart is the best way to make things right. If you're ever in a tough spot, like someone being unfair at school or on your team, think of Jake. Stay cool, find the facts, and let the truth do the talking. Sunny Hills is happier now because one person cared enough to fix it. Jake didn't just move in and ignore the problems. He saw something wrong and worked hard to make it better. That's a big deal. It reminds us that we can all make a difference, even in small ways. Maybe you can't catch a thief like Jake, but you can help a friend, clean up a park, or stand up for what's fair. Every little bit counts, like one lamp lighting up a whole street. So what's the big takeaway? Don't judge people too fast. The quiet ones might be heroes and the loud ones might be hiding something. Look closer, stay kind, and keep your heart open. You never know who's got the power to change things or who's shining a light when it's dark. Thanks for hanging out with me through this story. What did you think of Jake's big win? Drop it in the comments, I'd love to hear. If you want more fun tales like this, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss out. Until next time, keep your own light shining bright just like Jake's lamp.